Richard Thomson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I welcome the advanced sight that I had of the statement. Agri-food is an absolutely hugely significant industry, providing a great deal of employment, and it's of huge strategic importance to us as a country. It's therefore really quite troubling, and I hope that the Secretary of State would share how troubled I am with this, when to hear the NFU President, Minette Batters, say earlier today that this is an industry that's in absolute crisis. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, it's really easy to see why. We have massive labour shortages, we've got food going unpicked, we've got food being ploughed back into fields, and while I welcome the 40,000 visas that have been announced, which, with the 10,000 additional that have been announced, I have to say to the Secretary of State that barely scratches the surface of demand across Scotland, let alone the rest of the UK, to tackle those issues. And it's absolutely imperative that we are doing all that we can at this heightened cost of living crisis to be supporting our producers to maximise the quantities of food that we can produce domestically to keep costs down. Now, we've got problems round about our borders. There is effectively, thanks to the Brexit we've chosen, a free-for-all for goods coming in, when there are massive barriers and trade frictions to us exporting those goods that we might want to export. The Fisheries APPG has produced a report today which makes for grim reading for anyone in that industry or with a care for that industry in light of how Brexit has played out. We have a continued welfare crisis in our pork industry, and farm incomes remain at historic lows. So it's very, very hard also to encourage people to buy as we might wish when people are grinding against the cost of living crisis and even in some cases struggling to pay for the energy that's necessary to boil vegetables or even to make something as simple and basic and nourishing as a bowl of soup. So we need to take steps in this strategy to put our food strategy on the same basis as we would put an energy strategy. We need to tackle energy prices, the cost of fertiliser and that debilitating shortage of labour. We also need to be supporting rather than undermining our producers when it comes to food and welfare standards, and supporting this industry as the custodians not just of our food chain and supply but also of our landscape, and making sure that it's playing its part in feeding our people and battling the cost of living crisis as we absolutely need it to do.
Secretary of State.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, the UK Government stands absolutely full square behind our fantastic Scottish food industry. Scotch whisky is our biggest food and beverage export, and Scottish salmon is also a major export, and we have some really strong industries in Scotland. On the issues that the honourable gentleman raised, we absolutely recognise that farm businesses have seen their input costs rise, particularly over the last 6 months. And that's because the price of fertiliser and the price of many agricultural inputs is directly correlated with the gas price. But it's also the case that agricultural commodity prices have risen. And generally speaking, since 2016, the referendum result, as a result of exchange rate changes, we've seen farm incomes and farm commodity prices rise quite strongly. The price of lamb is now over £6 a kilo. The price of wheat has doubled in the last year. And we've seen strong prices in other sectors, such as beef as well. It's a mixed picture. There are some where they haven't seen that price rise, but generally it's been a strong position. And finally, on the issue of labour, which he raises, as I've said, we have a seasonal agricultural workers scheme. We work closely with the industry to understand their needs. Our assessment at the moment is that 40,000 visas is what's necessary for this current year.